Music evolution is a product of Ian Wilson, Ivan Riobo, and Shaliesh Lohia. Music has many stakeholders, from the artists who play it, to the studios and labels who record and produce it, to the end users who buy those recordings. They all have a stake in the history and future of music. One of the novel ways this history has been collected is through the million-song dataset. Featuring over 1 million popular songs from the last 60 years, this dataset has the potential to test our assumptions and find new trends in the data we never knew existed. As with any large dataset, it presented a number of challenges. How do we make these trends accessible to someone without a strong statistical background, just a general interest in music? How do we point users to areas of interest within the dataset? And how do we take large amounts of information and intelligently abstract it so we can look at it from a high level? To address these tasks, we created Music Evolution. Music Evolution is an interactive information visualization that allows users to see high-level views of the data and begin to discover the changes that 3 music genres have incurred over the last 55 years. To explore this system, we will ask one of our initial questions. How have rock and pop changed as genres over this time period? On the first page, we see 3 views of the data. As we explore this system, you will notice that we have 2 main colors, blue representing the genre selected on the left, rock, and green representing the genre selected on the right, in this case pop. These colors map to any of the information views that we show. At the top, we have metadata for our current year. Currently, we have rock and pop selected. As you can see for the year 1960, we have 23 songs for rock. We can also see the average duration, average loudness, average tempo, and average popularity or hotness for these songs this year. The last 4 pieces of metadata are plotted on the right in our overtime view. This is a great place to start when exploring the data. Here, we can see some of the larger trends that these 2 genres have experienced over time. If you are interested in seeing other genres compared, you can do this through the genre selectors in the metadata view. But for now, let's stick to rock and pop. On the left is our waveform view. This displays the duration, loudness, tempo, and popularity of songs for our current year, 1960, grouped into 20 equal-sized chunks. The height of each bar is relative to the proportion that this data chunk represents of the total data for this year. As you can see, most of our songs are relatively short in 1960, and that matches up with the overtime graph on the right. As we move through the years, more songs will appear for each year, and this waveform will begin to show a more normalized distribution. Let's begin our journey. One of the best ways to start is to look for an area of interesting separation or change in the overtime graph, and then navigate there. Navigation is handled by our play controls on the bottom. I see that there is a big split in duration between rock and pop in the early 1970s, and then pop becomes longer in the mid-1970s. Let's investigate. I have a few ways of getting there. I can drag the play cursor on the bottom, step through the years using the next and back buttons, or just hit play, wait for it to hit the right year, and then push the stop button. Now I'm at the year 1976, and we're beginning to see a more normalized distribution of the songs. Let's investigate the history of these 2 genres until this point. To look at this decade, simply click the decade on the play control bar. All the user has to do in order to look at a custom time range is to drag the bounds on the play control to the correct range. Clicking the start button takes us back to the beginning, and we are ready to watch again. We've seen the overtime graph already, so let's take a look at another view, the subgenres within our dataset. For 1960, rock is split into multiple subgenres, and pop is only showing one genre, pop, for this year. I'll go ahead and push play. Rock immediately begins to split into multiple subgenres and becomes more diverse. But at least for our dataset, pop remains consistent until the early 1970s. Remember the big swings in duration happening during this time in pop's data? Could they be related? To understand a little bit more context, we can navigate to another view, location. We've seen the waveform animate a couple of times, so let's replace that one. Starting at the beginning, let's view this same time period again. Each of these bubbles represents the proportion of songs in our dataset being recorded in each location. A very large bubble indicates that a high proportion of songs in our dataset originated here. As the animation plays, you will see huge bounces from several recording hotspots around the world. As these genres spread out amongst the world, what else changes? One way to explore this question is to look at the most commonly used words in these song lyrics. This can be accomplished through our lyrics view. This view shows the 20 most commonly used words for each genre for the data that we have. As words become larger, it means that they appear more times in songs during that year. Let's watch the whole time range and see if we can't spot a relationship between the most popularly used words and the internationalization of recording songs in these genres. When we reach the end of the dataset, you might notice many words in languages other than English begin to appear. This is supported by our location view, as the proportion of songs in this dataset for both pop and rock being recorded in North America becomes more balanced with the world. Insights like these are readily available in the Music Evolution visualization. This tool might be used to better understand historical trends or begin to ask deeper questions about cross-genre influences. Whether the user has a casual interest in music history or is a music producer trying to predict the next trend, Music Evolution provides the framework to begin exploring the rich information contained in the million-song dataset.